The night of my birthday, my husband didn't show up. We had been married for just over 6 months. Instead, I received only a message. "Darling, a last-minute work trip came up. Forgive me." Alone among the guests, I tried to ignore the uneasiness growing inside me. But the next morning, everything changed. His phone was turned off. Nobody at the office knew about this supposed trip. And then, an anonymous call revealed something I could never have imagined. "Hello?" I answered, not recognizing the number. Silence. Then a woman's voice, hesitant. "Is this Scarlett?" "Yes. Who's calling?" "You don't know me, but I think we need to talk about Freddie." My stomach dropped. Something in her tone sent a chill through my body. I glanced at the framed photo on our mantelpiece, Freddie and me on our wedding day, his smile bright and reassuring. The same smile that had first captivated me at that gallery opening 18 months ago. "Who are you?" I managed to ask, my throat suddenly dry. "My name is Brooke. She paused. "I think your husband is with my sister right now." The room seemed to tilt. "There must be some mistake," I said automatically, the words hollow even as they left my lips. "I wish there was." Her voice softened. "They've been seeing each other for months. I just found out myself when he didn't come home last night, and she finally confessed everything." "Didn't come home?" "I don't understand." "Scarlett, Freddie has been living a double life. With my sister. In Boston." I sank onto the sofa, the phone shaking in my hand. Boston was a 3-hour drive away. Freddie had been traveling there for work at least once a week since we got married. "This can't be right," I whispered. But flashes of evidence were already surfacing in my mind. The late-night calls he took outside, the weekends suddenly occupied by emergency client meetings, the mysterious cologne I'd smelled on his jacket last month. Not his usual scent. "I'm sorry," Brooke said. "I wouldn't have called, but I found your number in my sister's phone. She's been tracking your social media. She knows everything about you." I thought of all my posts, our wedding photos, vacation snapshots, the dinner party pictures from just 2 days ago, the birthday celebration I'd been planning for weeks, announcing it online with excitement, the party he'd promised to attend before sending that text. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, anger beginning to rise through my confusion. "Because I've been where you are," she replied quietly. 5 years ago, my husband did the same thing. I wish someone had told me sooner. After hanging up, I sat motionless, staring at nothing. Then, with trembling hands, I reached for my laptop and opened Freddie's email. We shared passwords, or so I thought. But when I tried to log in, the password had been changed. I tried his banking app next. Locked. His cloud storage. Inaccessible. Dizzy with panic and betrayal, I moved through our apartment like a detective, suddenly seeing it with new eyes. The locked drawer in his desk yielded nothing when I forced it open. Empty, as if purposely cleaned out. His closet seemed thinner, missing key items I couldn't immediately identify. I called his office. "Freddie Marshall? He's on personal leave this week," his assistant told me. "Personal leave? He told me it was a business trip." A pause. No. He requested personal time off 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. When he'd told me he'd be home for my birthday. When we'd made plans. I hung up and sank to the floor, my mind racing. Who had I married? How could I have missed the signs? I was 34, successful in my own career as an interior designer, prided myself on reading people well. Yet somehow, I'd been completely blind to whatever was happening right in front of me. The doorbell rang, startling me. I wiped my eyes and composed myself before answering. It was Lisa, my closest friend, holding a bottle of wine. "I came to check on you after last night. You seemed so upset when everyone left." I pulled her inside and the whole story tumbled out. The message, the anonymous call, the locked accounts, the personal leave. "Have you been to the bedroom yet?" she asked when I finished. "What do you mean?" Lisa looked at me carefully. "You've been down here searching his office. Did you check your bedroom thoroughly?" Something in her tone made my skin crawl. I shook my head. "Let's look together," she said gently. Upstairs, our bedroom appeared normal at first glance. Lisa moved purposefully to Freddie's nightstand and pulled open the drawer. empty, like the desk drawer downstairs. "Check under the mattress," she suggested, her voice strangely calm. "Lisa, what are you—" "Just check, Scarlett." I lifted the corner of the mattress on his side of the bed, and there it was. A small black notebook I'd never seen before. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside were addresses, phone numbers, dates, and notes in Freddie familiar handwriting. Most entries made no sense to me, but some stood out immediately. April 15th, E's gallery event. Wear blue tie, ask about her mother. May 8th, first date with E. Mention interest in architecture. June 20th, E mentions trust fund matures at 35. 1-year timeline. September 3rd, wedding. Don't invite Boston contacts. I stared at the last entry from just 3 weeks ago. December 12th, exit strategy initiated. Transfer final funds before birthday party. "How did you know to look here?" I whispered, looking up at Lisa. She hesitated, her eyes filled with something that looked like guilt. "Because this isn't the first time he's done this, Scarlett. Freddie isn't even his real name." The notebook slipped from my fingers as the room began to spin around me. "Who are you?" I managed to ask as the truth began to dawn on me. "And who is he?" Lisa's face softened as she sat beside me on the bed. "I should have told you sooner," she said, her voice cracking. "I only found out myself a few weeks ago." "Found out what?" I demanded, clutching the notebook. "How do you know who he is?" She took a deep breath. 3 years ago, I worked at Meridian Partners in Chicago. There was a man there named Robert Caldwell. He was charming, brilliant with clients. Everyone loved him. Then one day, the company discovered he'd been redirecting client funds into personal accounts. My throat tightened. And? He disappeared before they could confront him. The police investigation turned up multiple identities, addresses in different cities. She looked at me pointedly. "When you introduced me to Freddie last year, I thought he looked familiar, but I couldn't place him. It wasn't until I saw that photo you posted from your weekend in Cape Cod, him on the beach in sunglasses, that it clicked. The profile, that distinctive scar on his shoulder. I remembered that weekend, our last getaway before the wedding. Freddie had been unusually camera-shy, claiming the sun hurt his eyes. "Why didn't you tell me?" I whispered, anger rising. "I wasn't certain. I spent weeks comparing old photos, searching for proof. I hired a private investigator 3 weeks ago." Her eyes welled with tears. "The report came yesterday, while you were setting up for your party. I was planning to tell you tonight, after I figured out how to break it to you." I stood up abruptly, pacing the room. "This makes no sense. Freddie has a job, a history. We met his college friend at that dinner party in July." "Did you? Or did you meet someone who claimed to be his college friend?" Lisa's voice was gentle but firm. "Scarlett, according to my investigator, your husband has used at least 3 different identities in the past decade. Robert Caldwell, Freddie Marshall, and before that, Daniel Wright in Seattle." The walls seemed to close in around me. I thought of our wedding day, how he'd insisted on a small ceremony, how uncomfortable he'd been when my cousins wanted to take pictures, how he'd convinced me we didn't need a videographer. "What about his family? His sister in California?" Lisa shook her head. "The address he gave you? It's a mail forwarding service." I sank back onto the bed, the notebook heavy in my hands. 6 months of marriage, 18 months of my life. Had any of it been real? "There's something else," Lisa said hesitantly. "The investigator found a pattern. Robert, or Freddie, or whoever he is, he targets specific women. Professional women with assets or inheritance coming. My trust fund. It would mature when I turned 35, just 8 months from now. Nearly $2 million from my grandparents. Freddie had known about it since our 3rd date, when I'd foolishly mentioned it over wine, flush with the excitement of a new relationship. "No," I said, though doubt was already consuming me. "He makes good money. He doesn't need my trust fund." "Does he make good money? Have you seen his actual accounts? His real paychecks?" I hadn't. He handled our finances, insisted it made more sense with his background in investment banking. I'd been depositing my checks into our joint account while he took care of the bills, the mortgage, our investments. A terrible suspicion struck me. "Our apartment." Lisa's expression confirmed my fear before she spoke. It's a rental, Scarlett. There is no mortgage. The paperwork you signed, my investigator couldn't find any record of a purchase. My legs gave out, and I collapsed onto the bed. For months, I'd been withdrawing from my savings for what I thought were mortgage payments. Where had that money gone? I need to see the investigator's report, I said, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. Lisa nodded and pulled a manila envelope from her bag. There's one more thing you should know, she said quietly as she handed it to me. He's done this before, at least twice that we know of. I opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a comprehensive report with background checks, financial records, and photographs spanning years. My husband, or the man I thought was my husband, appeared in many of them, sometimes with different hair, different glasses, but unmistakably him. And there were women, a real estate agent in Seattle, a pediatrician in Chicago, both professional women in their 30s, both left financially devastated. Then I saw a photograph that made my blood run cold. Freddie, or Robert, with his arm around a dark-haired woman, both smiling at the camera. The caption read, Daniel Wright and Victoria Reyes, engagement party, Seattle, 2018. He was engaged before, I murmured. Yes, Lisa confirmed. Victoria Reyes disappeared 3 years ago. My head snapped up. What do you mean, disappeared? Lisa's face was grim. She went missing shortly after confronting him about his deception. The Seattle police interviewed Daniel Wright, but he had an alibi. A month later, Daniel Wright no longer existed. And then Robert Caldwell appeared in Chicago. Fear replaced the numbness I'd been feeling. This wasn't just about money or lies. It was potentially dangerous. I picked up my phone. I'm calling the police. Wait, Lisa said, placing her hand over mine. Before you do that, there's something we need to check. She led me into my home office and went straight to my computer. Do you mind? She asked, gesturing to the keyboard. I nodded, and she opened my online banking portal. I entered my password, and we both stared at the screen. My primary savings account, the one that had held over $200,000 from years of careful saving and successful design projects, showed a balance of $843.17. I don't understand, I breathed, clicking frantically through the transaction history. I just checked this account last week. There was over $180,000 in there. The most recent transaction had occurred yesterday, the day of my birthday, while I was preparing for the party. A transfer of $180,000 to an external account I didn't recognize. He cleaned you out, Lisa said softly, right before he disappeared. I clicked on my other accounts. My checking account held just under $3,000, not enough to cover next month's supposed mortgage payment. My retirement account showed a series of withdrawals over the past 3 months, leaving it nearly empty. My entire financial life had been hollowed out from the inside. I feel sick, I whispered, pushing away from the desk. We need to call the bank immediately, Lisa said, already pulling out her phone. Then the police. If we act quickly, we might be able to freeze the transfers before the money disappears completely. As she dialed, I noticed a blinking notification on my email, a new message received only minutes ago. The sender, Freddie Marshall. With a shaking hand, I clicked it open. Scarlett, by now, you've probably discovered certain truths. I want you to know that despite what you may think, the feelings were real. You were different from the others. Don't try to find me. Don't involve the authorities. If you do, certain information about your family will become public. Information I know you'd prefer to keep private. Consider what happened a valuable lesson about trust. Perhaps the most expensive education you'll ever receive, but a necessary one. Goodbye, Scarlett. I stared at the screen, a cold fury building inside me. Different from the others? A valuable lesson? This man had systematically destroyed my financial security and was now threatening me. He just emailed me, I said, interrupting Lisa's call with the bank. He's threatening me not to go to the police. Lisa ended her call and read the email over my shoulder. What information is he talking about? What does he have on your family? My mind raced through possibilities. My parents were both dead. My father from a heart attack when I was in college. My mother from cancer 3 years ago. There were no scandalous family secrets I could think of. Then it hit me. The photo albums. The weekend after our wedding, Freddie had offered to digitize my family photo albums to preserve them. He'd had them for weeks. He must have found something he thought he could use against me. But what? As I struggled to make sense of it all, my phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. "The woman you know as Victoria Reyes isn't missing, and I can help you find your husband. Meet me tomorrow, 2 p.m., Riverside Park by the boat basin. Come alone." I showed the message to Lisa, whose eyes widened. "Scarlett, you can't meet this person alone. It could be him or someone working with him." I stared at the message, my mind reeling with possibilities. Victoria Reyes wasn't missing? What did that mean? And who was this mysterious texter? "I need answers," I said firmly. "And whoever this is might have them." Before Lisa could protest further, another text arrived. "P.S. Don't tell your friend Lisa anything more. She's not who you think she is either." I stared at the text message, my blood turning to ice. "Don't tell your friend Lisa anything more. She's not who you think she is either." Lisa was still reading over my shoulder. "Scarlett, this is clearly a manipulation tactic. He's trying to isolate you, make you distrust the people who can help you." She sounded logical, reasonable. The Lisa I'd known for 3 years. My maid of honor, the person who'd consoled me when my mother died, who'd celebrated every career milestone with me. But doubt had already taken root. If I could be fooled so completely by Freddie, what else might I have missed? "Maybe," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "I need a minute. I'm going to splash some water on my face." In the bathroom, I locked the door and leaned against it, mind racing. I needed to think clearly, to separate what I knew from what I merely suspected. Facts. Freddie had lied about his identity. My money was gone. Someone claimed to have information about him and was warning me about Lisa. I stared at my reflection. Pale face, red-rimmed eyes, the emerald necklace Freddie had given me for Christmas still around my neck. I unclasped it, suddenly repulsed. Had it been bought with another woman's stolen money? A plan began to form. I flushed the toilet and ran the tap to maintain the illusion, then texted back, "I'll be there. How will I recognize you?" The response came quickly. "I'll find you. Come alone. Your life depends on it." My hands shook as I tucked the phone into my pocket. When I emerged, Lisa was on her phone again, speaking tensely to someone about freezing accounts and filing police reports. "Need to move quickly before he transfers the funds offshore," she was saying. She glanced up as I entered. "The bank is working on freezing the accounts, but they need you to come in person with identification." "Let's go now," I said decisively. On the drive to the bank, I watched Lisa from the corner of my eye. Was there anything suspicious about her story? She claimed to have recognized Freddie only recently, but they'd met multiple times over the past year. And how convenient that her private investigator's report arrived the day before Freddie disappeared. "Tell me about Meridian Partners," I said suddenly. "When exactly did you work there?" Lisa kept her eyes on the road. 2018 to 2019. I was in their marketing department before I moved here and started at Warren & Associates. And Robert Caldwell worked there at the same time. "Yes, in their investment division. We didn't interact much, just saw each other at company events. He was charismatic, always the center of attention." It sounded plausible. But then, so had everything Freddie ever told me. At the bank, I spoke with the fraud department while Lisa waited in the lobby. The news wasn't good. The transfers had been initiated using my verified credentials from my own computer. The bank would investigate, but the process could take weeks, with no guarantee I'd ever see the money again. "Is there anyone who had access to your passwords, Mrs. Marshall?" the bank manager asked gently. The name stung. It wasn't even real. "My husband," I admitted. "And possibly—" I glanced toward the lobby where Lisa was typing on her phone. "Others." As we left the bank, Lisa suggested our next stop should be the police station. Instead, I asked her to drop me at my sister's apartment. "I need some time to process everything," I explained, "and I can't face going back to that apartment right now." Lisa seemed reluctant, but agreed. "Call me the moment you need anything," she insisted, hugging me tightly before I exited her car. I returned the embrace, wondering if it was genuine or another deception. I waited until her car disappeared around the corner, then hailed a cab. My sister lived in Boston, the very city where Brooke had claimed Freddie was with her sister. I had no intention of going there now. Instead, I directed the driver to a hotel downtown. In the safety of an anonymous hotel room, I spread out everything I had: the mysterious notebook, Lisa's investigator report, my phone with the cryptic text messages. I needed to make sense of this tangled web before meeting the unknown messenger tomorrow. The investigator's report seemed comprehensive, with detailed timelines of Freddie Marshall's previous identities, but something nagged at me. There were no original source documents, just summaries prepared by the investigator. Who was this person Lisa had hired? How had they gathered this information so quickly? I turned to the notebook. The entries documenting Freddie's approach to me were chilling in their calculation. Dates and notes about my preferences, my weaknesses, my financial status. But there were other entries that didn't fit the pattern: references to business dealings, locations, and people I didn't recognize. March 3rd. Meeting with L Investment Structure finalized. 60-40 split. July 17th. L confirms target acquisition. Proceed as planned. L. Could that be Lisa? The dates aligned with when she claimed to have started suspecting Freddie. My phone rang, startling me. Unknown number. Hello? I answered cautiously. Scarlett. A woman's voice, vaguely familiar. It's Brooke. We spoke this morning. My heart raced. How did you get this number? I'm using a different phone now. A pause. That's what I'm trying to warn you about. You're being watched. What do you mean? By whom? Not over the phone, she said urgently. I shouldn't even be calling you. But you need to know. Freddie isn't working alone. Never has been. The pieces started to align in my mind. Is Lisa involved? Another pause, longer this time. You figured that out faster than most, Brooke said finally. Yes, though she's not using her real name with you either. My stomach lurched. Who are you? Why are you telling me this? Because my sister isn't involved with Freddie. She's dead. Her voice broke. They killed her when she discovered what they were doing. I've been tracking them ever since, waiting for my chance. When I saw your wedding announcement in the paper, I knew you were their next target. I struggled to breathe. If what you're saying is true, I'm in danger right now. Yes, she confirmed grimly. They're not done with you yet. The money they've taken is just the beginning. What do they want? Your trust fund, for starters. But there's more. She lowered her voice. Your mother's estate included shares in Westlake Pharmaceuticals, didn't it? I froze. My mother had indeed left me a significant stake in Westlake, where she'd worked as a research director. The shares were held in a separate trust, one I rarely thought about since it was managed by the family attorney. How do you know about that? Because that's their real target. Those shares are worth far more than your trust fund, especially with the pending merger that hasn't been announced yet. My head spun. The merger wasn't public knowledge. How did she know about it? I have to go, Brooke said suddenly. Someone's here. Remember, trust no one you knew before today. I'll see you at Riverside Park. The line went dead, leaving me with more questions than answers. If Lisa was involved, who else might be? My attorney? The bank manager? How deep did this conspiracy go? I needed to verify Brooke's claims independently. I called my family's longtime attorney, Mr. Harrington, using the hotel phone rather than my cell. Scarlett, what a pleasant surprise. He greeted me warmly. Is everything all right? You don't usually call from an unknown number. Just checking in about my mother's estate, I said, trying to sound casual. Specifically, the Westlake shares. Are they secure? A brief hesitation. Of course they are. Why do you ask? I've been thinking about diversifying. Has anyone inquired about them recently? Another pause. As a matter of fact, yes. Your husband contacted me last week about transferring them into a joint management account. I told him I'd need your signature and in-person verification, as per your mother's stipulations. My blood ran cold. And did he schedule that meeting? Yes, for next Monday. Is there something wrong, Scarlett? Cancel it, I said firmly. And don't speak to Freddie or anyone else about my assets without contacting me directly. On this number, not my cell. I'll explain everything soon. After hanging up, I sat on the edge of the bed, trembling. Brooke's information had checked out. Freddie had been attempting to access my mother's shares worth millions with the impending merger, and he'd been working with someone else, possibly Lisa. But one thing still didn't make sense. If they wanted my signature for the Westlake shares, why would Freddie disappear now? Why not wait until after they'd secured the bigger prize? Unless this was all part of the plan. My husband's disappearance creating emotional distress, Lisa stepping in as the supportive friend, guiding my decisions while I was vulnerable. They needed me alive and manipulable, at least until Monday. A knock at my hotel room door made me jump. "Room service," called a woman's voice. "I didn't order anything," I called back, my voice shaking. "Complimentary, ma'am, for all guests tonight." I approached the door cautiously and peered through the peephole. A young woman in a hotel uniform stood holding a covered tray. Harmless enough, but I wasn't taking chances. "Please leave it outside the door," I requested. "I need a signature, ma'am." That set off alarm bells. "No, thank you then." I backed away from the door, heart pounding. Through the peephole, I watched as the woman stood there for a long moment, then set down the tray and walked away, speaking quietly into what looked like a communications device at her wrist. My phone buzzed with a new text. "They found you. Leave now. Back entrance." I grabbed my purse and the evidence I'd collected, then slipped out of the room and headed for the emergency stairs instead of the elevator. As I pushed open the door to the stairwell, I heard the elevator ding on my floor. At the bottom of the stairs, I hesitated at the exit door. If they were watching the front, they might be watching the back too. Instead, I continued down to the basement level, where I found a service corridor leading to the adjacent building. A shopping mall still open for evening business. Blending in with the shoppers, I tried to calm my racing thoughts. Who had sent that last warning text? Brooke? Someone else? And how had they known where I was? As I moved through the mall, a reflection in a store window caught my eye. A man about 30 feet behind me, pretending to look at his phone. When I turned down another corridor, he followed. I ducked into a crowded department store, weaving through clothing racks and display tables. In the women's restroom, I entered a stall and struggled to control my panic. I needed somewhere safe to spend the night before tomorrow's meeting. My phone buzzed again. 4th floor, service elevator. There's a key card waiting behind the fire extinguisher. Room 812 at the Adams Hotel across the street. Go now. Either someone was helping me or I was being herded into a trap. But staying put wasn't an option. Taking a deep breath, I made my decision and stepped out of the stall, only to find myself face to face with Lisa. "There you are," she said, her familiar smile not quite reaching her eyes. "I've been so worried about you." In her hand was a small syringe, partially concealed by her sleeve. Time slowed as I stared at the syringe in Lisa's hand. My mind flashed back to all the times she'd been there for me. The shoulder to cry on when my mother died, the celebratory dinners after big client wins, the long conversations planning my wedding. Had it all been a calculated act? "What's that?" I asked, backing toward the sinks. "Just something to help you calm down," Lisa said, her voice eerily soothing. "You're not thinking clearly, Scarlett. You're in shock." "I'm thinking more clearly than I have in 18 months. I gripped the edge of the sink behind me. Her smile faltered. "You know I'm just trying to help you through this. Freddie betrayed us both." "Did he?" I challenged. "Or have you been working together all along?" Her expression hardened, the mask finally slipping. "You've always been too clever for your own good." "That's what Freddie said." "Tell me the truth, Lisa. Or whatever your real name is." She sighed. Allison Beck. And yes, Freddie and I have worked together for years. He finds the targets, establishes the relationship. I play the supportive friend. And Victoria Reyes, the woman in Seattle who disappeared? A flicker of something, regret, crossed her face. A complication we hadn't anticipated. She was supposed to simply lose her money and move on, like the others. A chill ran through me. "You killed her. Not me personally." She took a step closer. "And I'd prefer not to have a repeat performance. The Westlake shares, Scarlett. You can sign them over Monday morning, then walk away with your life. Otherwise..." She gestured with the syringe. I needed to keep her talking, buy myself time to think. Why? I asked. Why me? Why any of us? It's just business. Your family's shares in Westlake are the key to controlling the company's vote on the merger. Combined with positions we've already acquired, we'll have a controlling interest. Do you have any idea how much money is at stake? We? Who are you working for? That's not your concern. She took another step. Now, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. This, she held up the syringe, will just make you compliant for a few hours, long enough to get you somewhere secure until Monday. My options were limited. The restroom door was behind her. The window was too small to climb through. I had nothing to use as a weapon except my hand closed around the ceramic soap dispenser on the sink. In one fluid motion, I hurled it at her face and lunged for the door. Lisa cried out as the dispenser struck her forehead. I shouldered past her, but she grabbed my arm, fingers digging in with surprising strength. We struggled, her grip like iron despite the blood now trickling from a cut above her eye. "You stupid, ungrateful bitch," she hissed, trying to bring the syringe toward my neck. I twisted away, my elbow connecting with her ribs. She gasped, momentarily loosening her grip. I wrenched free and stumbled backward through the restroom door, nearly colliding with a startled shopper. "Help!" I screamed. "That woman tried to attack me." Heads turned. A security guard at the end of the corridor started toward us. Lisa froze in the doorway, clearly calculating her options. With a final venomous glare, she turned and disappeared back into the restroom. I didn't wait to see what happened next. Taking advantage of the confusion, I hurried toward the service elevators as instructed in the text message. My hand shook as I reached behind the fire extinguisher, finding a key card taped exactly where promised. The service elevator took me to a staff area where delivery drivers were loading packages into the mall. I slipped out a side door, crossed the street, and entered the Adams Hotel, moving quickly through the lobby toward the elevators. Room 812 was at the end of a long corridor. I hesitated before using the key card, wondering who had arranged this safe haven. The door opened to a standard hotel room, clean, anonymous, and seemingly unoccupied. On the bed was a manila envelope with my name written on it. Inside, I found $2,000 in cash, a prepaid phone, and a handwritten note. "Don't use your credit cards or phone. They're tracking them. Rest here tonight. I'll meet you at Riverside Park as planned. Trust no one until then." The note was signed simply, V. Brooke. But why was she helping me? What did she want? Her sister was supposedly dead, killed by Freddie and Lisa, but I had only her word for that. I secured the door with every lock available, then dragged a chair under the handle for good measure. In the bathroom, I scrutinized my reflection. Disheveled hair, mascara streaked down my cheeks, a bruise forming where Lisa had gripped my arm. I barely recognized myself. As I showered, the events of the day replayed in my mind. In less than 24 hours, my entire life had unraveled. My husband was a con artist. My best friend was his accomplice. My savings were gone. And some shadowy organization wanted my family's shares in a pharmaceutical company. The warm water couldn't wash away the sense of violation. These people had infiltrated every aspect of my life, studied me, learned my vulnerabilities, and exploited them all. How could I have been so blind? After the shower, I checked the prepaid phone. It contained only one contact, V, and one text message with tomorrow's meeting details. I used it to search for information about Westlake Pharmaceuticals and discovered rumors of a merger with a larger company, which would potentially triple the stock price. My mother's shares would indeed be worth a fortune if that happened. I also searched for Victoria Reyes and found newspaper articles from 3 years ago about her disappearance in Seattle. Police suspected her fiancé, Daniel Wright, but lacked evidence to charge him. Daniel Wright had disappeared shortly after being questioned. The case remained unsolved. A knock at the door made me freeze. "Room service," called a male voice. My previous encounter in the other hotel flashed through my mind. "I didn't order anything," I called back. "Complimentary for room 8112, he responded. Instructions were to deliver regardless. I approached the door cautiously. "Leave it outside, please." "Need signature, ma'am." "Hotel policy." Same script as before. My pulse quickened. No, thank you then. Silence. Then another knock, more insistent. Ma'am, I really need you to open the door. I backed away, looking frantically around the room for an escape route. The window. We were 8 floors up. No fire escape. The adjoining room door was locked from both sides. Management's coming up if you don't open the door, ma'am, the voice called, harder now, dropping the servile tone. I grabbed my purse and the envelope with the cash, moving quietly to the bathroom. The room phone rang, shrill, demanding attention. I ignored it, closing the bathroom door and locking it. The main door to the room rattled, someone trying to force it open. The chair beneath the handle scraped against the floor. In a movie, I'd climb through the bathroom ceiling or find a convenient air duct. In reality, I was trapped. Then I remembered the housekeeping carts I'd passed in the hallway. They'd been preparing rooms for turn-down service. I swung open the bathroom cabinet and found what I needed. A hairdryer, heavy, with a long cord. Moving quickly, I tied one end of the cord to the bathroom doorknob and stretched the hairdryer back as far as the cord would allow. When released, it would swing with considerable force toward anyone entering. The main door to the room splintered as someone forced it open. The chair toppled with a crash. "Check the bathroom," commanded a male voice, not the same as the room service guy. I pressed myself flat against the wall beside the bathroom door, grabbing the hotel's glass soap dish as my only weapon. Footsteps approached. The bathroom doorknob turned, and the door began to open. I released the hairdryer. It swung in a wide arc, slamming into the intruder with a satisfying thud, followed by a cry of pain. I didn't wait to see the effect. I charged forward, bringing the soap dish down on the man's head as he staggered backward. He collapsed, momentarily stunned. I leapt over him and ran toward the main door, where a second man stood shocked at my sudden appearance. This one I recognized, the man who had been following me in the mall. Before he could react, I swung my purse at his face with all my strength. He stumbled sideways, giving me just enough space to squeeze past him into the hallway. "Stop her!" he yelled, recovering quickly. I ran toward the emergency stairs, the pounding of footsteps close behind me. Throwing open the stairwell door, I started down, taking the steps 2 at a time, praying not to trip in my haste. My pursuers crashed into the stairwell behind me, their footfalls echoing off the concrete. They were gaining. I couldn't outrun them down 8 flights. At the 6th floor, I yanked open the door and ran into the corridor, hoping to lose them among the hotel rooms. The hallway was empty except for a housekeeping cart near the far end. An idea struck me. I sprinted to the cart and grabbed the master key card hanging from it just as the stairwell door burst open again. Ducking around the corner, I tried the key on the nearest room door. The light flashed green, and I slipped inside, closing it silently behind me. The room was dark and quiet. I pressed my eye to the peephole, watching as my pursuers ran past, continuing down the hallway. Relief washed over me, but I knew it was temporary. They would soon realize their mistake and begin checking rooms. I needed a better plan. I couldn't keep running blindly, reacting instead of acting. I needed allies, resources, a way to fight back. The room's occupant had left their laptop open on the desk. I hesitated only briefly before sitting down in front of it. The screen showed a social media page, still logged in. I opened a new browser tab and quickly typed an email to the only person I could think of who might help me. My cousin Harvey, a former military intelligence officer now working in corporate security. "Harvey, I'm in serious trouble. People are trying to hurt me. Long story short, Freddie is a con man who married me for money and access to Mom's Westlake shares. He has an accomplice named Lisa Allison. They've stolen my savings and are after Mom's shares. They've killed before. I'm hiding at the Adams Hotel downtown but can't stay. Meeting someone tomorrow who claims to have information. If you don't hear from me by tomorrow night, contact police. Tell them to look into Victoria Reyes' disappearance in Seattle 2018 and Freddie Marshall Dar, Robert Caldwell, Daniel Wright. Trust no one who knew me before today. Love you. I'm sorry to drag you into this." Li sent the email, then cleared the browser history. As I stood to leave, a sound at the door made me freeze. A key card being inserted into the lock. The room's actual occupant was returning. I looked around frantically for a hiding place as the handle turned. The closet? Under the bed? Neither would conceal me for long. The door swung open, revealing a middle-aged woman in a business suit. She stopped short at the sight of me, her hand still on the door handle. "Who the hell are you?" she demanded. "And what are you doing in my room?" I raised my hands in a placating gesture. "Please," I whispered. "I need help. There are men looking for me. They want to hurt me." She stared at me, taking in my disheveled appearance, the fear in my eyes. Her hand moved toward the phone on the wall. "Wait," I pleaded. "Please don't call hotel security. The people after me. They've infiltrated the hotel staff. That's how they found me before." Her hand hesitated. "Why should I believe you?" Good question. In her position, I wouldn't believe me either. "You don't have to," I said quietly. "But if you call security, you might be putting both of us in danger. All I'm asking is that you let me leave without raising an alarm. I'll be gone in 30 seconds. She studied me for a long moment, then stepped aside from the doorway. "I don't know what kind of trouble you're in, but you look terrified. Go. Now." "Thank you," I breathed, moving toward the door. "Wait," she said, reaching into her purse. She pulled out a can of pepper spray and held it out to me. "Take this, and whatever you're mixed up in, get help. Real help." I accepted the pepper spray gratefully. "I'm trying." Peering carefully into the hallway to ensure it was clear, I slipped out of her room and toward the elevators, formulating my next move. The hotel was no longer safe. I needed somewhere to lay low until tomorrow's meeting. Somewhere they wouldn't think to look for me. As the elevator doors closed, my new phone buzzed with a text from V. "They've compromised the hotel. Lobby security cameras show 4 men searching. Go to the garage level, exit through the service tunnel. Black sedan waiting. License RGC 713. Driver knows where to take you. Hurry. This could be another trap, or it could be my only escape route." Either way, I was out of options. The garage was dimly lit and smelled of exhaust. I spotted the black sedan immediately, its engine running. As I approached cautiously, the driver's window lowered, revealing a face I recognized from Freddie notebook photos. "Victoria Reyes?" I gasped. The woman nodded grimly. "Get in, Scarlett. We don't have much time." "Victoria Reyes?" I gasped at the woman behind the wheel. She nodded grimly. "Get in, Scarlett. We don't have much time." I slid into the passenger seat, and she accelerated out of the garage. "You're supposed to be dead," I said as she navigated through side streets. "I am Brooke," she corrected. "Victoria was my twin. She really is dead. My sister was involved with the man you know as Freddie. When she discovered what he was doing and confronted him, they found her body in Lake Washington days later." She explained how she'd tracked Freddie from Seattle to Chicago as Robert Caldwell, and then to me. A former corporate intelligence specialist, she had infiltrated their operation 8 months ago. "It's a sophisticated network," Brooke continued. "Freddie and Lisa, or Allison, are just field operatives. They're working for Martin Graves, who funds these cons to acquire specific assets." "Like my mother's Westlake shares," I said. "Exactly. Westlake is developing a breakthrough cancer drug about to receive FDA approval. The merger will make those shares worth billions. But why such an elaborate scheme? The marriage?" Brooke made a sharp turn. "Westlake has a family legacy provision. Your mother's shares carry weighted voting rights that can only be exercised by direct descendants or their spouses. So they needed me or my husband. And a husband is easier to fabricate than DNA." She pulled into the driveway of a modest house. Inside, she secured all entrances before showing me photos on her laptop of herself with a cold-eyed, expensively dressed man. "Martin Graves," she identified him. "I've been gathering evidence while feeding them false information. Why not go to the authorities? I don't have enough concrete evidence yet, and they have connections in law enforcement. I tried after Victoria died and got nowhere." Brooke outlined a plan using my attorney appointment as bait. Freddie and his associates expected Lisa to drug me and bring me to sign over my mother's shares under duress. "Instead," she explained, "we'll be recording everything. Once we have clear evidence of coercion and fraud tied directly to Graves, we'll have leverage to get a confession for Victoria's murder." I was hesitant. "What makes you think they won't just kill us both?" "I've built safeguards, multiple recordings streaming to secure servers." Evidence packets prepared to be sent to the FBI, Interpol, and news outlets if anything happens to us. She took my hand. Scarlett, I can't do this without you. I withdrew my hand. I need time to think. Alone in the bedroom, I weighed my options. Brooke's story was detailed and plausible, and I had few alternatives. These people had taken everything from me. My savings, my sense of security, even my identity as a wife. In the morning, I told Brooke I'd help her. We spent hours refining the plan to surveil Freddie's meeting with Graves at a restaurant downtown. Suddenly, Brooke received a text that made her frown. Change of plans. Graves wants to meet at a warehouse by the river. And that set off warning bells. Is it a trap? She checked something on her laptop, her expression darkening. There's been a security breach in one of my storage accounts. Someone accessed my surveillance footage. They know. Maybe not everything, but enough to be suspicious. The new plan involved a direct confrontation. Brooke had recordings implicating both Freddie and Graves in multiple frauds. We needed to upload these files to her FBI contact by noon. As we prepared to leave, I checked my prepaid phone and found a message from my cousin Harvey, responding to my earlier email. He offered to help and was in town. He works in corporate security, former military intelligence, I told Brooke. We could use the backup. She reluctantly agreed. I texted Harvey our location while Brooke showed me her evidence. Photos, financial records, recordings. It was comprehensive and damning. A car pulled up outside. Looking through the blinds, I said, "That's not Harvey's car." The front door burst open. 2 armed men entered, followed by Lisa, Allison, with a bandage on her forehead from our mall encounter. "Hello, Scarlett," she said coldly. "You've led us on quite a chase." Brooke drew a weapon but never got to use it. A third man appeared behind us and tased her. She collapsed to the floor. Allison smiled. "You really should be more careful about who you trust." "Did she tell you she was helping you? That she wanted justice for her poor dead sister?" My blood ran cold. "What are you talking about? There is no Victoria Reyes. There never was. Brooke doesn't have a twin. She's been working with us from the beginning." I stared at Brooke's crumpled form. "That can't be true. She has evidence." "The recordings are real enough," Allison conceded. "But Brooke isn't gathering evidence to expose us. She's gathering leverage to take over the operation." One of the men approached with zip ties to secure my hands. My phone buzzed with a text from Harvey saying he was arriving. Allison read it and laughed. Perfect timing. "He's former military," I blurted, desperate to warn him. "He'll know something's wrong." "We're counting on it," said a new voice from the doorway. I turned to see Freddie regarding me with cold eyes. "Hello, Scarlett," he said calmly. "I believe it's time we discuss those Westlake shares." Time seemed to slow as I stared at Freddie, the man I'd married, loved, and trusted. His familiar face now looked like a mask, his smile no longer reaching his eyes. I searched for any trace of the person I thought I knew, but found only a calculating stranger. "Why?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Was any of it real? A flicker of something. Regret? Amusement? Crossed his face. "Business is business, Scarlett. Nothing personal." "You married me," I said, anger rising through my fear. "You shared my bed, my life, for 18 months. How is that not personal?" Freddie shrugged. "I've done worse for less. The Westlake shares are worth billions with the merger. Your trust fund was just a bonus." Allison checked her watch impatiently. "We don't have time for this. Your cousin will be here any minute." Freddie nodded. "You're right. Scarlett, here's how this will work. You'll sign the transfer documents for the Westlake shares. In return, you get to live. Simple exchange. And if I refuse, then things get complicated," he replied evenly. "For you and your cousin." A car engine sounded outside, followed by a car door slamming. Harvey had arrived. "Perfect timing," Freddie said, nodding to one of his men, who moved to position himself beside the door. I had seconds to make a decision. If Harvey walked into this trap, we'd both be at their mercy. And once they had the shares, they'd have no reason to keep either of us alive. As footsteps approached the front door, I made my choice. I lunged forward, ramming my shoulder into Freddie with all my strength. The unexpected move caught him off guard, sending him stumbling backward into Allison. In the moment of confusion, I screamed at the top of my lungs, "Harvey, run! It's a trap!" The front door crashed open. But instead of my cousin, 4 armed officers in tactical gear stormed in, weapons raised. "Police! Nobody move!" Freddie's men froze, caught by surprise. Allison reached for something in her jacket, but immediately halted when an officer trained his weapon directly at her head. "Hands where I can see them! Now!" Behind the tactical team came a tall man in a suit, badge displayed on his belt. Not my cousin Harvey, but someone whose stern expression suggested he was very much in charge. The officers quickly secured Freddie, Allison, and their men, confiscating weapons and phones. "Scarlett Marshall?" the man in the suit asked, approaching me as an officer cut the zip ties binding my wrists. I nodded, rubbing my freed hands. "Who are you?" "Special Agent Donovan, FBI. Your cousin contacted us early this morning with concerns about your safety." He glanced at Brooke, who was now being attended to by another agent. And it appears he was right to be worried. Relief washed over me. "Harvey is waiting at our field office. We couldn't risk him coming here directly." Agent Donovan looked at Freddie, now handcuffed and seething. "We've been tracking Martin Graves and his operation for over a year. Your situation has provided us with the break we needed." As the officers led Freddie and Allison toward the door, Freddie paused, looking back at me with cold fury. "This isn't over, Scarlett." Agent Donovan placed a firm hand on Freddie's shoulder. "Actually, it is. Fraud, conspiracy, identity theft, and that's just the beginning. Where you're going, you won't see daylight for decades." As they were escorted out, another agent approached, helping a now-conscious Brooke to her feet. "She claims she was working undercover," the agent told Donovan. "Says she has evidence on her laptop." Brooke's eyes met mine, pleading. "Scarlett, I can explain. Yes, I infiltrated their organization, but everything else I told you was true. Victoria was my sister. They killed her." Agent Donovan looked skeptical. "We have no record of any FBI informant named Brooke Reyes." "I wasn't working for the FBI," she admitted. "I was working alone. For justice. A vigilante," Donovan said flatly. "A sister seeking the truth," she countered. "Check my laptop. Everything's there. Recordings, financial trails, aliases. It's all the evidence you need to connect Graves directly to the operation." Donovan instructed an agent to secure the laptop. "We'll sort this out at headquarters. For now, everyone's coming in." Hours later, I sat in an interview room at the FBI field office, exhausted, but finally beginning to feel safe. Agent Donovan returned with coffee and an update. "Your statement has been very helpful," he said, sliding a cup toward me. "Combined with the evidence from Ms. Reyes's laptop and files we've already gathered, we have a solid case against Graves and his entire network." "What about Brooke?" I asked. "Her story checks out, at least partially. There was indeed a Victoria Reyes who disappeared in Seattle 3 years ago, and the evidence she collected appears legitimate. She'll face charges for operating outside the law, but her cooperation will count in her favor." "And the Westlake shares?" "Secure in your mother's trust. We've alerted your attorney to the situation." Harvey entered the room then, and I rushed into my cousin's embrace. "You saved my life," I whispered. "That's what family does." He replied simply, "I'm just sorry I wasn't suspicious of Freddie sooner." After completing additional paperwork, I was free to leave with Harvey. The agents assured me I would be protected until all members of the organization were in custody, including Martin Graves, who had been arrested at his office an hour earlier. As we walked to Harvey's car, the events of the past 48 hours crashed over me. My marriage had been a lie. My best friend a fraud. My savings gone. My sense of trust shattered. "How do I even begin to rebuild after this?" I asked Harvey as we drove away from the FBI building. "One day at a time," he said gently, "starting with a safe place to stay." He took me to his apartment where his wife Harper had prepared the guest room and a hot meal. Their genuine warmth and concern was a stark contrast to the calculated manipulations I'd endured. That night, alone in the guest room, I found myself staring at my wedding ring, still on my finger despite everything. I twisted it off and held it up to the light. The diamond sparkled. Real, at least, among all the lies. I set it on the nightstand, a reminder of the price of blind trust. 6 months later, I stood in the doorway of my new apartment, keys in hand. It was smaller than the place I'd shared with Freddie, but it was mine, paid for with the advance from the book deal about my experience, part of my healing process. My finances were slowly recovering. The FBI had frozen Freddie's accounts and recovered a portion of my stolen savings. The Westlake shares remained safely in trust, their value indeed skyrocketing after the merger was approved. I'd received a letter from Brooke, who had been sentenced to probation for her vigilante activities in exchange for her cooperation. She had finally found justice for her sister, though not in the way she'd planned. As for Freddie, he and Allison faced decades in prison, along with Martin Graves and several others. During the trial, I had looked into Freddie's eyes one last time, searching for a glimmer of the man I thought I had married. I found nothing but a stranger, a shell filled with greed and deception. Were there ever any real moments? I had asked him during a court recess, needing to know if any part of our relationship had been genuine. He had considered the question, his handcuffed hands resting on the table between us. "The night your mother died," he said finally, "when you cried in my arms, I almost walked away from the job that night. Almost. But he hadn't. Instead, he had held me, comforted me, all while calculating the value of my inheritance. Now, standing in my new doorway, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Hope. The betrayal had nearly destroyed me, but it had also revealed my own strength. I had survived, testified, written my story, and begun to rebuild. I closed the door behind me, leaving it unlocked for a moment longer. Harvey and Harper would arrive soon to help me unpack. My sister-in-law from Boston was driving down next weekend. My design clients were returning, impressed by my resilience rather than frightened by my story. I was no longer alone, no longer a victim. I had learned the hardest lesson about trust, that it must be earned, not freely given. But I had also learned that not everyone is a deceiver. Some people are genuine, their love and support real. My phone buzzed with a text from Harvey. 5 minutes away, bringing dinner and champagne. Time to celebrate new beginnings. I smiled and typed back, "Doors open. I'm ready." And for the first time in a very long time, I truly was.